Hello Capricorn and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at your connection between you and the person that you are dealing with right now and that you're needing to learn the most from. We'll be looking at all three sides of the connection, so we'll be pulling for your side, their side, and the energy in between the connection, the concept being that there are three sides to every story. So we'll be looking at your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and then this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section is looking at what is the deeper purpose of the connection and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Friendly reminder that these are general readings. They are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate, if anything, that helps your personal situation, and leave what does not. On that note, the whole reading can be reversed. If that is the case for you, that's totally fine and totally normal. Again, the point is to take what helps and leave what doesn't. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me, sorry about that, is in the description box below. My mic got caught here. Okay, other than that, let's go ahead and jump in, Capricorn. Let's start with your side of the connection to the person that you are dealing with and needing to learn the most from at this time. This is Capricorn's side of the connection. Separation with love. Okay. So this is about a person that you currently aren't connected to in the physical realm, I guess, if you will. I feel like there's this already feels like a very complicated story, because I feel like there's a lot of love here, but I feel like there's almost so many reasons that this connection hasn't been working. And like what I kind of gather here is that energy of like, is love enough? Because I do feel like I said, there is a lot of love and compassion that you have towards this connection, but it's almost like that wasn't able to be enough. And also I feel like what this could be is you feel like maybe what you have to give isn't enough. I do feel like you've given a lot of love in this connection, and I feel like because of where things are at, maybe you're starting to wonder, like, am I enough? Is what I have to give enough to be able to receive the love that I do truly deserve and desire? Spoiler alert, it is absolutely enough. You absolutely are enough. But I do know that sometimes when we're dealing with connections that we kind of pour ourselves into, but that don't, lead to where we want, or the person doesn't respond in the same way, like it can really start to make us doubt ourselves or question our own worth. This person's energy toward Capricorn. And I don't know if you initiated the separation or if they did, but I do feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of second guessing here. This person's energy toward Capricorn. And maybe not second guessing the connection or the separation necessarily, but like second guessing, again, like your worth or whether or not you're good enough. They have unfinished business here. What else? This person's energy toward Capricorn, but then dead end. Interesting. That's confusing. That's very contradictory, right? It's like, well, it feels like there's more to uncover here, yet we've hit a dead end. I feel like this energy is definitely that energy of there's this potential, but we can't seem to reach that potential. And it's interesting because this person definitely sees that potential too. And I feel like you saw that, which is why you really poured a lot into this. But this dead end card is what's really tripping me up, because it almost feels, I don't necessarily know if it's like this person's decision or what. It's like there was a lot that could have happened, but yet it's like that there was this bump in the road, and instead of figuring out how to like get around it, it was like, oh, well, I guess it's not going to work. And I will say a lot of times when we're dealing with people who maybe struggle with commitment or intimacy or emotional availability, when things do get hard or when there are arguments or just complicated things that arise in the connection, their first instinct, can definitely be to run or pull back their energy or sabotage in some way. So maybe that's what happened here. I'm not quite sure, but I do definitely feel like there is just this overall kind of confusion on both sides because, and maybe not necessarily with what happened, like you might both be really clear on what happened, but it's like, why did that happen? Or how did we get here kind of energy, because there is so much love. And I think that can be so complicated because it's like, we had, it's like we had everything we needed to create a beautiful connection. So like, what the hell happened? And that's kind of just the vibe I'm getting in general, is just like, what the hell happened here? Truth of this connection between Capricorn and this person. Truth of the connection between Capricorn and this person. Codependency and deja vu. So this connection is and has been stuck in a cycle, and there's the confusion. So there is some sort of a dynamic in this connection that has been appearing over and over again. And that dynamic is what keeps this connection from being able to reach its full potential. And I feel like that's where the confusion really stems from, is it's like there's a lot of love, and I feel like both people actually, I do feel, have good intentions when it comes to this connection, but for whatever reason, it's like not being able to break through that barrier, or to not being able to get past something or past a certain point in the connection. And maybe we'll kind of uncover, what's really going on and where that's stemming from. But it's like this deja vu is like around and around and around again. It's like, get to a certain point and then things fall apart. Like, could be breakups and makeups, or it could just be like one argument about the same thing over and over again. It's just like this energy of we can't get past this, or we can't move past this. And I do feel like with this codependency card, that can be a really unhealthy dynamic. Codependency can show up in so many different ways in our relationships, but what that really means is taking responsibility for somebody else's journey or healing, and basically saying like, it is my job to fix you or to heal you or to push you to grow, or whatever the case is. And sometimes we're dealing with people that don't want to ultimately grow or change. I think that I've learned it is so much easier to stay the same than it is to grow and evolve and push yourself to look at yourself in the mirror and make, the hard choices and the difficult changes. And it's hard because we're literally supposed to grow, and our relationships in particular will always push us to grow. So if you have one person who's showing up at the connection, like wanting to grow and wanting to evolve and wanting, things to get to a different place, but then you have one person who kind of gets a little bit complacent with where things are at, or doesn't really want to show up or be different, like that's going to ultimately, the connection's going to reach a dead end. You're going to get to this point where it's like, well, where is this going? If, I'm pouring into this connection, you're not really giving me the same, but yet you refuse to change. So I don't know necessarily exactly what's going on, but I do feel like we're going to be diving into a lot in this reading. Typically we do in these love readings, so that's not really much of a surprise, but I do feel like this might help you. I think the goal with this is just really to provide some clarity on what is really going on here, and ultimately what's within your control to fix it or change it in some way, because we can't control other people. We can't control what they do or how they show up. In fact, the more that we try to control other people, the more that we actually set ourselves up for heartbreak and suffering. And the more that we learn to kind of just let people show us who they are and decide whether or not that's enough for us, the more that we, leave space for the right people in our life and ultimately kind of protect ourselves. But let's get a little bit more here. Overall theme of this reading between Capricorn and the person they are dealing with. That didn't feel right. It didn't come out all the way. I caught it and it felt like an oopsie. Overall theme of this reading between Capricorn and this person. Okay. Passion. Passion. And then you have this getting to know each other card. And then love yourself first. It's almost like what you fell in love with here, Capricorn. And I will say this is pretty common. Is I feel like you have a lot of love for who you believe this person could be, and maybe even the person that like they showed up as in the beginning, or that they showed you glimpses of throughout the connection. But it feels like, for the most part, because there is a lot of passion here, right? There's chemistry, there's attraction, there is connection here. But what I really have learned is that is never going to be enough to sustain a connection for the long term. Because if it takes two people, to make a connection work. And when you're dealing with people who don't really want to grow or evolve or expand or change, or who are stubborn or don't want to admit that they need to change, it's really hard, because you see this potential and you hold on to that, and you're like, I know how good this could be if you could just get to this certain place, because then we could get to this certain place. And I think that we have a tendency to really hold on to people for what they could be. And it's almost like this person is showing you their capacity. It's like they're showing you what they're capable of at this point. And I think that the hardest thing that we have to learn to do in our connections is take people as they are. Like, when somebody shows you this is what I'm capable of, or this is what I'm willing to do, or this is where I'm at, we have to be willing to say, okay, like, I see that, and then decide for ourselves whether or not that's enough for us. Instead, and this is where it gets tricky, instead of trying to figure out how we can force them to change, or make them be different or better, or even if it might be for their benefit, I think that we have a tendency to think, oh, well, if I love this person, then I'll be able to love them into loving themselves. And then if they love themselves more, then they'll love me more. And then if they love me more, then I'm going to be happy, and I'm finally going to experience the love that I deserve and desire. Which then you have to look at, okay, if we can't control other people and we can't control what they do or the decisions that we make, we have to look at what is within our control and the mirror and the lesson associated. And when we're trying to change other people, there's a part of us that thinks that our value or our worth comes from how much we provide others. And it just doesn't. I mean, what you do provide others is absolutely valuable, but you are inherently a valuable person, and you deserve the love that you have to give without having to prove that you're deserving of it. However, in these kinds of dynamics, when they start to get a little codependent, we start to believe that our worth is about how much we can fix, save, heal, or take care of another human being. And when that happens, we then start to abandon our own needs or our own desires, or the things that we, want when it comes to our relationships. And we say, my goal in this relationship is to make you happy and to make sure that you're good and that you're taken care of. And then we think that if we do that enough, that then the other person's going to do the same for us. But what we're actually doing is creating this dynamic where it's all about the other person. And I think that might kind of have been what happened in this connection. So like, even if you've known this person for a really long time, or if you've been in a connection with them for a while, and maybe you haven't, but even if you have, I feel like you're becoming aware of who they really are and what they're really capable of, and you're being asked to decide, like, is this what you really want in your relationships? Is this good enough for you? Or do you desire more? And understanding that whatever it is that you do desire in your relationships, you are absolutely capable of having. But let's dive into this story a little bit more, Capricorn. Starting with your side here, you have love with separation. This is Capricorn's energy toward the person they are dealing with and needing to learn the most from right now. And I will say, like, I've learned this lesson in all different kinds of relationships. I've learned it in, obviously, romantic partners. I've learned it in friends. I've learned it in familial relationships. Like, this kind of dynamic can show up everywhere. And if we're not careful, we might even create all of our relationships on this basis of my needs don't matter, it's all about you. All right. No? Okay. Capricorn side of this connection. You're hurting. And I felt that from the beginning, because I feel like again, it does feel like heartbreak because you do have so much love to give this person and so much love for this person. And I feel like it's hard because you're not understanding, I feel like, why that's not enough. There's literally the separation card, 2 of Cups in reverse. And I feel like this separation in some way, whoa, I'm not going to take all of those. That's too many messages. Clear and concise, please. You know, it's hard because you're like, why, you know, if I have all of this love to give and, you know, it's everything essentially, I feel like, that you have to give. Like, I feel like you have poured quite literally everything that you have into this connection and into this person. And I feel like there's this part of you that is really starting to feel like no matter how hard you try, you're never going to be loved in the same way that you love. And I think that what we have to do whenever we're looking at that kind of question, like when we start asking ourselves that, like, am I enough, or what I have to give enough? We have to start asking ourselves what part of us we believe isn't enough, because inherently, no matter who you are enough. But sometimes we start to create these limiting beliefs based on our experience that says, like, we're not enough or we're not lovable. And a lot of times it's because our relationships have shown us that. And it's our goal to really break out of the familiarity of those dynamics and start to address the parts of ourselves that we need to love first before we start looking for somebody else to love those parts. So it's obvious that, you know, there is a lot of pain associated with where you're at in this connection. And with the 6 of Cups here, I feel like this is this desire to go back to how things used to be. Because I do feel like in the beginning, this person showed up as like the person that you wanted. But then again, over time, like who they really were, their max capacity, if you will, started to show. And I think that what makes it really hard is you know, maybe even are starting to wonder, like, well, what if it will never be as good as it could be with this person if this person reaches their potential? And I get that, and I completely understand that. But I think that is this way that our ego tricks us into believing that what somebody has to give us is as good as it can get for us. So we start saying, well, I'll take what I can get now, hope for, you know, that things will be different later, but then get disappointed when things stay the same. And that essentially is like your ego's way of just staying in a familiar dynamic, even if it doesn't make you happy. Because I don't feel a whole lot of happiness or fulfillment when it comes to you having what you need in this connection, even before things went into separation. So what I'm gathering is that the way that things are panning out really feels like divine protection. It feels like the universe is protecting you from something that wouldn't be able to be what it is that you do truly deserve. But I'm not saying you need to see it that way, or that it can't be what it is that you deserve sometime in the future. But we never want to give away that power, right? We never want to say, you know, it's up to you to decide, like, when I'm lovable or when I'm deserving of the love that I have to give. We have to decide that for ourselves, and that's where we let other people show us what they're capable of, and then we decide, like, yes, this matches the capacity that I have to give, like this matches what I desire and what I deserve, or we have to say this isn't it, and we either set a boundary or speak up about our needs. And if that isn't, you know, responded to well, then that's where we have to make the decision to separate ourselves. And maybe that's what has happened here. Or maybe this person walked away from this connection and you're the one left really heartbroken, but maybe that's where you're needing a different perspective to look at, maybe this is happening for the best, or the universe is protecting you from someone who didn't know how to love you well. This person's energy toward Capricorn. Ooh, wrong deck. Wrong deck. I did that in the Sagittarius reading. Last time I did love readings. I don't know why it's so hard for me to switch decks. I just get in the zone and I get to pulling cards. Okay, this person's energy toward Capricorn. I just feel like this kind of dynamic is so familiar for you. And maybe even this person is very familiar for you. Like they've been in your life for a really long time. It's almost like this person is a reflection of the love that you're used to, but not the love that you actually desire. Which a lot of times, if we're not careful, our ego will pull us toward people and situations that are familiar and that remind us of how, like what we're used to. Our ego's primary goal is survival, so it's going to put you in situations it knows it can survive, even if those aren't what's best for you. So that's why, healing is really about making conscious choices instead of repeating unconscious patterns, which comes with knowing, like, I am deserving of more than this. This might be what I'm used to, but I don't have to stay in these kinds of cycles anymore. This person's energy toward Capricorn, the death in reverse. See, there's that stubbornness. The death in reverse is literally a refusal to change. And I think that that's what's so hard is like you, is that upright? Eight of Pentacles? Hang on. I want to clearly pull cards first before I start talking because sometimes I'll get a little jumbled. Pentacles, the Seven of Cups. The Nine of Pentacles. Oh, that's so interesting. And the Magician in reverse. Okay. What I was going to say was you, and I felt this on your side of this connection, like you were desiring more out of this connection before the separation even occurred. And I think that what's hard about this is like you want the potential, right? You want what this could be, who this person could be, but they don't want to change. However, I do feel at the same time that they want this connection to work. So here's the thing, is the only way that it would work is if this person changes or if you drop your standards and your expectations of what it is that you need and desire in a connection. That isn't fair. You absolutely aren't going to do that, right? The question is, isn't whether or not this person values you enough to change. I think that a lot of times we have a tendency to look at it that way, and we have to say, well, why is my love or my value not enough to get this person to change, to make different decisions, to make healthier, better decisions in relationships? When it has nothing to do with you. I mean, with this Eight of Pentacles, I feel like this person, it's like they put a lot of effort in the wrong way. And what I mean by that is it's almost like it feels very bare minimum. It's like, well, you're like, well, I really needed someone to be there for me during this day where I was, really emotional and this person's like, well, I mean, like I brought you home, I don't know, like something so bare, like what's a good example? It's like, you're like, I wanted a hug, and this person's like, well, I mean, I stayed home and watched the game and you were there, and it's like, no, but I wanted you to spend time with me. Like, that's what I'm gathering. That's not a good example, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like they feel like they're trying, and I think that that's what's really hard, is I do genuinely feel like this person believes that they don't need to change, and that they're not doing anything wrong. But I feel like from your perspective, it's so very clear that they do need to change in some ways, or that they do need to treat you better. But here's where things get tricky, is you might start to go, maybe I'm asking for too much, or maybe what I desire in love is not realistic. And though, sure, we can have unrealistic expectations when it comes to anything in life. But if you're asking to be reciprocated or loved well or respected or treated with kindness and compassion, like you are not asking for too much. And it feels like what's stressful about this this energy, and why I feel like I'm having a hard time really putting into words where this person is at, is I feel like they genuinely believe that what they're giving you is all that they should give you, even though I feel like you're showing up with like way more than they are in this connection. And I think that that's why this is so confusing. And it's like, well, what the hell happened? Because it's almost like, and maybe this person checks a lot of boxes on the outside. They're like, well, I'm really successful, or I have this going on, or I have that going on. And you're like, yeah, but like, I can't come to you when I have a problem, or like, I can't be vulnerable with you, or I can't open up for you, or you're not there when I need you, or you don't really respect my feelings, like things like that ultimately really matter. Like, I can't trust you, or whatever the case might be. And it feels like this person is just coming from this place of like, you should accept me as I am. And though absolutely we should accept people as they are, that also doesn't mean that bare minimum behavior has to be enough. You can both accept someone as they are and at the same time decide that that's not enough for you. And I think that that's where this connection is at, is being able to ask yourself, okay, yes, this person desires you. They desire this connection. They want this to work. They see the potential, sure. But they don't want to have to change. They don't want anything to be different. They just want to go back to you feeling like you're not having your needs met and them just being like, the taker of the connection. And that isn't fair. That's not how, that's not, first of all, what you deserve. And that's also not how healthy, sustainable relationships can be built. So I think that that's what's hard, is it's not whether or not this person misses you, or whether or not they're thinking about you, or whether or not they want to be with you. Like, that's bare minimum, Capricorn. Somebody desiring you, somebody wanting to be with you, that is so bare minimum. And of course, somebody desires you and wants to be with you. You are desirable, you're lovable, you have a lot of value to give. But this is this time, I feel like then the best way to kind of break this cycle is to break out of this need to feel as if you need to lower your standards or what it is that you desire in order to make a connection. Because if you continue to do that, you might stay in this cycle of, because the universe isn't going to let you settle in relationships where you're not meant to settle. So if you're experiencing failed relationships and, things falling apart, and you're like tired of the heartbreak and you just want to find the right relationship, sometimes when the universe is pulling us out of connections, the universe is actually protecting us from what isn't meant for us. And it's not saying you can't have the love that you desire. It's the universe's way of saying you have to raise your standards and realize that you're deserving of more than what you've been willing to accept, which is so hard when we've been taught that even when we do lower our standards, we still can't have what we want, right? So it's backwards, because we start to think, wow, I'm settling for less than what I deserve, and it still, didn't work, or I still ended up heartbroken. So if I raise my standards, that means that there's even less of a chance that things are going to work out. But a lot of times, we have to remember that our relationships with other people are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. And when we start to love ourselves enough to know that we are deserving of more, we actually start to attract the people that start to reflect that love back at us. In between this connection, you have deja vu with codependency. I'm going to dive deeper into this, looking at the deeper truth of the connection and the best way for you to move forward in alignment with your higher self. And then I have an advice card to pull at the end. Thank you so much, Capricorn, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Capricorn.